Hare Krishna, welcome everyone once again to our daily study of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, first of all, we'll chant the prayers. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupagadamaya Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shritapadakamlam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchan Gaurangi Radhe Vindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Panamami Hari Priye वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा. So we had covered, we were in 10th canto, 16th chapter, Krishna chastises the serpent Kaliya. 12th verse we completed, so today we will see 13th verse onwards. So 13, 14, 15 are together. Tan alakshya bhayodvigna gopananda purogama vina विना रामेण कृष्णं ज्ञात्वा चारयितं गतं तैर्दुर्निमित्तैर्निधनं मता प्राप्तम् अतद्विधा तन्मनस्कास्ते दुःखशोकभयातुरा आबालवृद्धवनिता सर्वे अङ्गपशुवृत्तया निर्जग्मुर्गोकुलादिना कृष्णदर्शनलालसाम्. So, word to word meaning: Tan, these signs, alakshya, seeing, bhaya, udvigna, agitated by fear, Gopa, the cowherds, Nanda Pura Gama, headed by Nanda Maharaj, Vina, without, Ramena, Balaram, Ga, the cows, Krishnam, Krishna, Gyatva, understanding, Charaitam, to herd, Gatam, gone, Tai, from those, Dunnimitai, bad omens, Nidhanam, destruction, Madhva, considering, Praptam, attained, Tat, Atattvida, not knowing his opulence, Tat Prana, having him as their very source of life, Tat Manaska, their minds being absorbed in him, they Dukkha, by pain, Shoka, unhappiness, Bhaya, and fear, Atura, overwhelmed, Abala, including the children, Vridha, old persons, Vanita, and ladies, Sarve, all, Anga, my dear King Parikshit, Pashu Vritaya, behaving as an affectionate cow does towards her calf. Nirjagmu, they went out, Gokulat, from Gokula, Dina, feeling wretched, Krishna Darshana, for the sight of Lord Krishna, Lalasa, anxious, translation by the humble servants of Srila Prabhupada. Seeing the inauspicious omens, Nanda Maharaj and the other cowherd men were fearful, for they knew that Krishna had gone to herd the cows that day without his elder brother Balaram. Because they had dedicated their minds to Krishna, accepting him as their very life, they were unaware of his very power and opulence. Thus they concluded that the inauspicious omens indicated that he had met with death, and they were overwhelmed with grief, lamentation, and fear. All the inhabitants of Vrindavan, including the children, women, and elderly persons, thought of Krishna just as a cow thinks of a helpless young calf, and thus these poor suffering people rushed out of the village intent upon finding him. So that specific day, Krishna went with his friends and cows and all for without Balaram. So, um, thinking that okay, he has gone without him, and we don't know what has happened. Those bad omens, inauspicious omens, indicated something wrong. So they were overwhelmed with grief, lamentation, and fear, and ran towards out of their house to find Krishna. Tams tatha kataran vikshya Bhagavan Madhavo Balaprahasya Kinchin Prabhava Gyo Anujasya Sa Tan them Tatha in such a condition Kataran distress Vikshya seeing Bhagavan the Supreme Personality of Godhead Madhava the Master of all mystic knowledge Bala Lord Balaram Prahasya gently smiling Kinchit anything at all, no, did not, Uvacha say, Prabhavagya, knowing the power, Anujasya, of his younger brother Sahi. Translation: the Supreme Lord Balaram, the master of all transcendental knowledge, smiled and said nothing when he saw the residents of Vrindavan in such distress, since he understood the extraordinary power of his younger brother. Because others used to think that okay, Krishna is their little child, so they were out of affection, they were worried. But Balram knew that yes, he is the Supreme Personality of God, so he was just smiling, seeing others. But Sri Balaram is a plenary expansion of Lord Krishna and is thus not different from him. They are in fact the same absolute truth manifest in separate forms. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Lord Balaram was laughing because he thought Krishna never cares to play with me in my form of Sheshanag, but now he is playing with his ordinary mundane snake named Kalia. Uh, so sweet, like yeah, the question may arise that as to why Krishna and Balram allowed their loving devotees suffer such great anguish during Krishna's temporary imprisonment within the coils of Kalya. It must be remembered that because the inhabitants of Vrindavan are completely liberated souls, they did not experience material emotions. When they saw their beloved Krishna in apparent danger, their love for him intensified to the highest degree, and thus they merged completely into ecstasy of love for him. The whole situation has to be seen from the spiritual point of view, or it will not be seen at all, or it will be misunderstood. So it was not a material anxiety, but a spiritual anxiety. Huh? ते अन्वेषमानदयितं कृष्णं सुचितया पदै भगवल्लक्षणैर्जग्मु पदव्या यमुना ततं they anvesamana searching out daitam they dearmost Krishna Suchitaya along the path which was marked Padai by his footprints Bhagavat Lakshanai the symbolic markings of the personality of Godhead Jagmu they went Padavya along the path Yamuna Tatam to the bank of the Yamuna. Translation: the residents hurried toward the banks of the Yamuna in search of their dearmost Krishna, following the path marked by his footprints, which bore the unique signs of the personality of Godhead. Te tatra tatrabja yavan kushashani dvajopapanani padani vishpate marge gavam anya padantarantarem निरीक्षमाना ययु anga satvara te tatra tatra here and there abja with the lotus flower yava balikon ankusha elephant goad ashani a thunderbolt dvaja and flag upapanani adorned padani the footprints vitpate of Lord Krishna the master of the cowherd community marge upon the path gavam of the cows anya padam the other footprints antare dispersed among Niriksha Mana. Seeing you, they went, Anga, my dear king, Satvara, rapidly. Translation: the footprints of Lord Krishna, the master of the entire cowherd community, were marked with the lotus flower, balicorn, elephant, goat, thunderbolt, and flag. My dear King Parikshit, seeing his footprints on the path along the cow's hoofprints, the residents of Vrindavan rushed along in great haste. Purport. Srila Sanatan Goswami comments as follows: since Lord Krishna had passed along the path Sometime previously, why weren't his footprints, which were surrounded by those of cows, cowed boys, and so on, smudged over and brushed away? Why hadn't his footprints been obliterated by those of the beasts and animals, birds of Vrindavan forest? The answer is indicated by the word Vishpati, master of the cowherd community. Since Lord Krishna is actually the wealth of all living beings, all the inhabitants of the forest of Vraja would carefully preserve his footprints as great treasures, the very ornaments of the earth. Thus, no creature within Vrindavan would ever walk upon Lord Krishna's footprints. Antarhriday bhujagah bhogaparitam arat Krishnam niriham labhya jalashayante gopamscha mudha dishyanam parita pashumscha sankrandata parama kashmalam apur arta. Anta within Hriday, the leg, Bhujaga of the serpent, Bhoga within the body, Paritam enveloped, Arat from a distance, Krishnam Lord Krishna, Niriham not moving, Upalabhya seeing, Jala Ashaya the body of water, Ante within, Gopan the cowherd boys, Cha and Mudha Dhishanam unconscious, Parita surrounding, Pashun the animals, Cha and Sankrandata crying out Paramakashmalam, the greatest bewilderment, Apu, the experience, Artha being distressed. Translation. As they hurried along the path to the bank of the Yamuna river, they saw from a distance that Krishna was in the lake, motionless within the coils of the black serpent. They further saw that the cowherd boys had fallen unconscious and that the animals were standing on all sides, crying out for Krishna. Seeing all this, the residents of Vrindavan were overwhelmed with anguish and confusion. Purport. In their grief and panic, the residents of Vrindavan tried to find out whether Kali had forcibly dragged young Krishna from the shore into the water or whether Krishna had himself jumped from the shore and fallen into the clutches of the snake. The greatest bewilderment, Apu experienced Artha being distressed. Okay, purport we were saying, no? In their grief and panic, the residents of Vrindavan tried to find out whether Kali had forcibly dragged young Krishna from the shore into the water or whether Krishna had himself jumped from the shore and fallen into the clutches of the snake. They could not understand anything about the situation, and Krishna's cowherd boyfriends were unconscious, were unable to tell them anything. The cows and calves were crying out for Krishna, and thus the whole situation was overwhelming and created a state of shock and panic among the residents of Vrindavan. Next verse, Gopya Anurakta Manaso Bhagavati Annante Tat Sahrada Smita Viloka Gira Smarantya Graste Hina Priyatamay Brisha Dukha Tapta Shunyam Priya Vyatiratam Dadrishustrilokam. Gopya, the cowherd girls, Anurakta Manasa, their minds very much attached to him. Bhagavati, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Anante, the Unlimited One, Tat his, Saurda, loving, Smita, smiling, Viloka, glances, Gira, and words, Smarantya, remembering, Graste, being seized, Ahina, by the serpent, Priyatame, their most dear, Brisha, extremely, Dukkha, by pain, Tapta, tormented, Shunyam, empty, Priya Vyatiratam, depriving of their darling, the Drishu. They saw Trilokam, all the three worlds, the entire universe. Translation. When the young gopis, whose mind were constantly attached to Krishna, the unlimited Supreme Lord, saw that he was now within the grips of the serpent, they remembered his loving relationship, his smiling glances, and talks with them. Burning with great sorrow, they saw the entire universe as void. Ta Krishna Mataram Apatyam Anupravishtam Tulya Vyatha Samanugrahya Sucha Shravantya Tasta Vrajapriya Katha Kathayantya Asan Krishna Nane Arpita Drisho Mritaka Pratika. Those ladies, Krishna the mother of Krishna Yashoda, Apatyam, upon her son Anupravishtam, fixing her vision Tulya, equally Vyatha, pained Samanugraha, holding back firmly Suja, floods of sorrow, Shravantya, spilling forth Tata, which each of them, Vrajapriya, of darling of Vraja, Katha topics, Katyantam, speaking asan, they stood, Krishna Anne, unto the face of Lord Krishna, and Pita offered Drishta, their eyes, Mitaka, corpses, Pratika, resembling. Translation: although the elder gopis were feeling just as much distress as she and her, and were pouring forth a flood of sorrowful tears, they had to forcibly hold back Krishna's mother, whose consciousness was totally absorbed in her son. Standing like corpses with their eyes fixed upon his face, these gopis each took turns recounting the pastimes of darling of Vraja. Krishna Pranan Nirvishato Nandadin Vikshatam Hridam Pratyashedya Dhatsa Bhagavan Rama Krishna Nubhavavit. Krishna Prana, the man whose very life and soul was Krishna, Nirvishata, entering Nanda Adin, headed by Nanda Maharaj, Viksha, seeing Tam, that rhythm, leg, Pratyasedhat, forbid, Sahi, Bhagavan, the all powerful Lord, Rama, Balaram, Krishna, of Lord Krishna, Anubhava, the power with knowing well. Translation: Lord Balram then saw that Nanda Maharaj and the other cowherd men who had dedicated their very lives to Krishna were beginning to enter the serpent's lake. As the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Balram fully knew Lord Krishna's actual power and therefore he restrained them. Purpose: Srila Sanatan Goswami explains that Lord Balram checked some of the cowherd men by speaking to them, others by physically holding them, and still others by casting upon them his potent smiling glance. Distraught over the situation, they were prepared to give up their lives for Lord Krishna by entering the serpent's lake. Itham sa gokulam ananya gatim nirikshya sastri kumaram ati dukhitam atma heto agyaya martya padavim anuvartamana stitva muhurtam udatishtat uranga bandhat. Itham, in this fashion, Swagokulam, his own community of Gokula, Ananya Gatim, having no other goal or shelter than him, Niriksha, observing, saw three, including the woman Kumaram, and children Ati Dukhitam, extremely distressed, Atma Hetu, on his account, Agyaya, understanding, Martya Padavim, the way of mortals, Anu Vartamana, imitating, Stitva, remaining, imitate Stitva, remaining, Muhurtam, for some time, Uda, Udatishtat, he rose up, Uranga of the serpent, Bandhat from the uh, bonds. Translation: the Lord remained for some time within the coils of the serpent, imitating the behavior of an ordinary mortal. But when he understood that the women, children, and other residents of his village of Gokula were in acute distress because of the love for him, their only shelter and goal in life, he immediately rose up from the bonds of the Kaliya serpent. Tat pratyamana vapusha vyathitatma bhogaistapto namaya kupitasa fanan bhujanga tastho sashan chaushana randhra vishambarish sabdhe kshanolmukha mukho harim iksha mana. Tat, of him, Lord Krishna, Pratyamana, expanding Vapusha by the transcendental body, Vyatita, pained Atma, his body, Bhoga, serpent body, Takta, giving him up, Unnamaya, raising high, Kupita, angered, Sofanam, his horse, Bhujanga, the serpent, Astau, stood still, Sashan, breathing heavily, Swashana Andrai, his nostrils, Visha, Ambarisha, they are like two vessels for cooking poisons, Sabdha, fixed, Ikshana, his eyes, Ulmuka, like brands. Mukha, his face, Harim, the Supreme Personality of God, and Ikshamana, observing. Tat of him, Lord Krishna Pratyamana, expanding Vapusham by the transcendental body. Okay, this we did. Okay, translation. His coils tormented by the expanding body of the Lord, Kalia released him. In great anger, the serpent then raised his hooves high and stood still, breathing heavily. His nostrils appeared like vessels for cooking poison, and staring eyes in his face like firebrands. Thus the serpent looked at the Lord. Tam jivaya dvishikaya parilelihanam hanam dve श्रिक्वनी ही अति कराल विषाग्नि दृष्टिम क्रीडन अमुम परिसर यथा खगेन्द्रो बभ्राम असोपि अवसरम प्रसमीक्षमाना. What word meaning? Tam him kalya jivaya, with his tongue, uh, with his tongue Dvishikya, having 2 points, Parilelihanam, repeatedly licking, Dves two, Shrikvani, lips. He indeed, Ati Karala, most terrible, Vishangni, full of poisonous fire, Drishtim, whose glance, Kridan, playing among him, Parisasara, moved around, Yatha, just as Khaga Indrai, the king of birds, Garuda, Babhrama, wandered around Sa Kalia Api also, Avasharam, the opportunity to strike. Prasamikshamana, carefully looking for. Translation. Again and again, Kalia licked his lips with his bifurcated tongues as he stared at Krishna with a glance full of terrible poisonous fire. But Krishna playfully circled round him just as Garuda would play with a snake. In response, Kalia also moved about, looking for an opportunity to bite the Lord. The Lord Krishna moved around the serpent so skillfully that Kalia could find no opportunity to bite him. Thus the snake was defeated by Sri Krishna's transcendental agility. एवं परिभ्रम हतौ जशम उन्नतांसम अनम्य तत्पृथु शिरस्व अधिरुद्ध आद्य तन्मूर्ध रत्न निकर स्पर्शति ताम्र पदाम्बुजोखिल खलादि गुरु nanartha. Evam, in this way, Paribrahma, because of the Lord's moving around him, Hatha, spoiled Ojasam, whose strength Unamta, raised high Amsham, whose shoulders Anamya, making him bend down, Tat, his Prithu Shirasu, unto the broad heads, Adhirudha, having climbed up Adya, the ultimate origin of everything, Tat, his Murdha, or the heads, Ratna Nikara, the numerous jewels, Sparsha, because of touching, Ati Tamra, very much reddened, Pada Ambuja, whose lotus feet, Akhila Kala, of all arts, Adi, Guru, the original spiritual master, Nanartha, began to dance. Translation. Having severely depleted the serpent's strength with his relentless circling, Sri Krishna, the origin of everything, pushed down Kalia's raised shoulders and mounted his broad serpentine heads. Thus, Lord Sri Krishna, the original master of all fine arts, began to dance his lotus feet deeply reddened by the touch of the numerous jewels upon the serpents' heads. Purport. Sri Harivamsha states Shira Sa Krishna Jagraha Swa Haste Na Namya. Krishna grabbed Kalia's head with his hand and forced it to bow down. Most people in this world are quite reluctant to bow down to the Supreme Person, the Absolute Truth. In the contaminated state called material consciousness, we conditioned souls become proud of our insignificant position and are thus reluctant to bow our heads before the Lord. Yet, just as Lord Krishna forcibly pushed Kalia's heads down and thus defeated him, the Supreme Lord's energy in the form of irresistible time kills all conditioned souls and thus forces them to bow down their arrogant heads. The Supreme Lord's energy in the form of irresistible time kills all conditioned souls and thus forces them to bow down their arrogant heads. We should therefore give up the artificial position of material life and become faithful servants of the Supreme Lord, enthusiastically bowing down at his lotus feet. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that Lord Krishna's lotus feet became red like copper because of their contact with numerous hard jewels upon the heads of Kalia. Lord Krishna, with those glowing reddish feet, then began to demonstrate his artistic skill by dancing on the unsteady, moving surface of serpents' heads. This extraordinary demonstration of dancing skill was meant for the pleasure of the young women of Vrindavan, who at this phase of the relationship with Krishna were seriously falling in love with him. That's amazing, isn't it? So we'll stop here today. So we completed 26th verse, 27th verse onwards we will see uh, in the next session. Thank you so much for joining. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.